listening to Speaking with One Voice with Rodney Payne. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, topics you'd like discussed on the show, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please email us at rpayne@onevoiceinc.org. That's rpayne@onevoiceinc.org. You can also search for us on Acast, Google Play, SoundCloud, and iTunes. Just look for Speaking with One Voice. Now, here's your host, Rodney Payne.
Hello and welcome to Speaking with One Voice. I am your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. I am so excited again this week to share with you a great leadership lesson to encourage you to really offer you some support in what you're doing on your leadership journey. We are so excited for that opportunity. I want to stop and just say thank you for continuing to listen, for continuing to watch us, for continuing to subscribe and like and rate and share our podcast. We are committed to adding value to you and your leadership team on this journey. And I want to thank you for following us on all of our social media platforms at Rodney R. Payne. I want you to click that little bell, subscribe, make sure you're the first to know about what's going on within One Voice Leadership so that we can help you get from where you are to where you want to be. I really, really want to ask you to go out to YouTube and go to our YouTube channel, Rodney R. Payne, and I want you to make sure you subscribe and turn those notifications on. We are excited to be in the YouTube space. We're on iHeartRadio, we're on Apple, we're on Google, we're on Spotify, we're on SoundCloud. Everywhere you consume your content, we are there, and we thank you for being a part of the One Voice family. Now, I want you to go by my website, rodneyrpayne.com, and I want you to pick up your free gift on moving the needle within your organization. That's a free resource, but it's a helpful resource. It will help you as you grow on your leadership journey. And if you have any questions or like to be a guest on our podcast, by all means, let us know, reach out to us, hit us in the comments, and we'll be happy to get back with you. Let's hop into the thought for today. On last week, we were talking about being motivated, and we talked about building a system of motivation, kind of how to keep yourself in that frame. Well, what happened is we got such great feedback that I've decided to continue that and dig a little deeper on motivation. So today I want to talk about maintaining your motivation. When we look at this thing of motivation, it's really something that we have to really understand that it's not always there. It's not always there. That's the problem. So motivation, when it's good, it's good. But have you ever been in a situation where you slept the day away that you had plans and good intentions to get work done, but you just didn't feel motivated? You were struggling to get up and get after it. So that day slipped away from you because you just didn't feel motivated. Well, today I want to talk about a few things that are going to help you that when you build that motivation, John Maxwell calls it the big mo or momentum, and momentum is fueled by motivation. So when you look at this, when I get that motivation, how do I build momentum from that and stay in that place? Well, the first thing is that you have to understand motivation comes in cycles. There's a motivation cycle. So what that means is that motivation can have peaks and it can have valleys. And so the goal is that you want to maximize the peaks and minimize the valleys. And so when we think about being motivated, there have to be certain things that feed into what you call your motivation. So when you're on the top of a mountain and you got that high momentum and you're highly motivated, a lot of times when you get there, you stop doing what it took to get there because it takes a different thing to get to the top than it does to stay at the top. So the work is different. So think about this. If you're looking at a visual where you have a hill and then a valley, a hill and then a valley. When you're climbing up the hill, you use different muscles, you use different energy, you use different things to get to that place. But when you find that elusive thing we call success, now that maintaining that success or doing the work to get there that you did to get there, it changes. So now the things we were doing to climb the hill, we are no longer doing. And so then we have the burden of the work, but we're no longer building up the hill. So now we start going downhill while we're yet still experiencing success. And so then when our success runs out, we're down the hill and we've got to find new motivation to get back up the hill. That is so difficult for us as leaders. So think about this. When you're not winning in a sales environment, it would be that you start a new sales position. So you can't close sales without a pipeline. So there are various behaviors that you'll implement to build your pipeline. Now, when you're building a pipeline, it's not necessarily success, it's preparing for success. You're getting potential clients in your pipeline that at some point will become clients. So there's a certain set of skills that you have to use to do that. As you're building this clientele, as you're growing in this process, what happens is at some point you begin to close the deals. Now you have onboarding, you have maintenance, and you have retention that when you were just building a pipeline, you didn't have that. You had touch points, you had to continue to put things in the pipeline so that they begin to come out. Well, when you get clients and now you're having closing meetings that you have to put into your day, you have follow-up meetings, you have onboarding meetings, you have customer service calls. Now you don't spend as much time building the pipeline. Well, what happens when the pipeline you work so diligently to build is now become clientele, but you've no longer been building a pipeline? Well, you go back down the hill and you start back over. So that makes a cycle. That's how motivation works. When you're in a good space, the good space can easily become great, but you can get so good in the great space that you forget what it took to get there. So the first thing I want you to understand today is that motivation is cyclical. It's not always there. And so you have to be careful. To how do I maintain that? Well, to maintain this motivation and to keep the cycle more consistent rather than up and down, it is you've got to reflect and adjust on a regular basis. You have to take time to build in a system of reflection on a regular basis so you can adjust before your situation changes on you. So if you're looking and you see a little slippage and you know you're not doing what you were doing that motivated you, you'll come back in and do it. For me, one of the things that motivates me now, I obviously we talked about it, and you all know I'm a legacy guy. But what motivates me now is personal care. I realize that I have to take care of myself in order to take care of you. And so I set time aside to reflect so that you and I can get on the same page, so that I can be your coach and we can work with you. So I'm super excited about this process of motivation and helping you to go from one step to the next. Now, I'm going to just touch this really quickly because I say it all the time. And if you're going to maintain motivation, you have to build in celebrations. If you're going to maintain motivation, you have to build in celebration. Listen, I had another achievement. I achieved this status probably back a couple of months ago, but I got my paperwork today. That re-engages me and re-energizes me. So I take a moment to celebrate. Now, I didn't throw myself a party and take a week off work and go spend a bunch of money, but I took a moment to really acknowledge the accomplishment, shared it with a couple of friends and family, and hey, that gave me enough to keep going. You have to understand the significance of recognizing your progress. You have to know that when you move the needle, you can't be so focused on where you're going that you forget to celebrate where you are. It'd be like taking a cross-country road trip, but never looking at the mountains, never looking at the Rockies when you're coming through there, or never looking at the desert when you're coming through there, never looking at the greens of the trees when you're on the East Coast, or looking at the beauty of the Pacific on the West Coast. You eat wherever you are at that moment. You have to learn to celebrate the achievements along the way. If your motivation has been down, you don't close the deal, but today was your most effective day of prospecting that you've had in a long time. You got to give yourself some credit for that. I hear far too many leaders. There's far too many of us that never take time to celebrate and often complain. I literally not meaning to complain, but I could have done more, or we didn't get this, or we didn't maximize this. We could have been better. We could have been better. And I'm not saying those things aren't true, my friend. Perhaps you could have done more, and perhaps you could have been better, but you also could have done less, and you could have been worse. So we need to learn to celebrate all victories, not just small ones or big ones, but I celebrate everything. I think you need to make some type of marker for celebration. One of the things that I keep behind me on my desk, you all see in my desk here, I have lanyards there. Those lanyards are from conferences that I've attended. Why do I keep the lanyards? I know my name and I know the conference, but I keep the lanyards to remind me of how much I've invested in my own personal growth. Every time I go somewhere, I get better. So sometimes I look in and just celebrate that I've been to that many conferences and that I know that self development, self personal growth, and leadership growth and development is an ongoing process. So I've learned how to celebrate. That celebration helps me to maintain my motivation. Again, don't over celebrate. You don't get a party, you don't get a cruise, you don't get a trip around the world, you don't get to work 3 days and take 15 days off. I'm not suggesting that. What I am is saying is that when you have an honest day's work, you deserve an honest day's pay, and you ought to just celebrate that you were able to do that. You say, well, that's not celebratory. Well, I don't know. How many people do you know that don't do an honest day's work, but get an honest day's pay? That's not something you celebrate. So I want you to learn to celebrate your achievements. You know our motto here at One Voice Leadership. We don't celebrate small victories. We celebrate all victories. You are listening to Speaking with One Voice with your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. Today, we're talking about maintaining your motivation. So I want us to make sure that we are really, really focused on understanding that motivation is a cycle and we've got to learn to celebrate our small victories. But then if you're going to maintain your motivation, you got to get tougher. And by getting tougher, I mean you have to learn how to build resilience. Every day will not be a successful day. You may be successful in that you finished it, but you are going to have some setbacks along the way. And setbacks, my friends, is a part of the journey. You're not going to always win. You're not going to close every deal. You're not going to be the best you can. You're not going to always be the best prepared. You're not going to always deliver to your capacity. People are not going to always keep their word to you. So what you have to do as a leader is you have to learn resilience. You have to learn how to get yourself back in the game when things don't go your way. And so I want you to really look. I'm a big systems guy. So what do you do practically to bounce back when you have challenges? One thing that I think people don't do enough as leaders is I don't think we take a moment to process the setback or to process the loss. We kind of either let the loss take us out or we try to either ignore the loss. I want you to make your losses or your setbacks your education process. I want you to take a moment and sit back and reflect on what happened. In your reflection, you're going to see what you could have done differently or better, and you'll own that. My friend, that's called accountability. You're going to look at what things were out of your control. You're not going to allow those things which are out of your control to become something that you accept as a part of every process. So you're gonna now I'm gonna take a moment, I'm gonna look at it, say, okay, what did I do? What could I have done better? I'm gonna be accountable for that. And by accountability means I'm answerable for it. And I'm also going to build a system to overcome it next time. Then there are things that I didn't get the deal because they chose someone else, but they didn't choose somebody else based on what I did because they chose somebody else because they felt they were a better fit. That just means that's not the client for me. And I'm going to understand that, but I'm not going to let it have a residual impact that no one ever chooses me. That's an apathetic leader who says that. And now you'll never put your best foot forward because you'll always be expecting to lose. Resilience says, I'm going to bounce back from this no matter what. So let's go back and be accountable. Let's go back and look at things outside of our control. And then let's go back and look at our overall messaging. Sometimes we have the right product and we are the right brand, but we did not articulate that correctly. We did not give our clients, our potential clients, the reason to do business with us. Sometimes we have things that we will we're not confident in. Let me just hear building resilience. How many of you, by show of hands, raise your hands, have lost a deal due to price? Come on, everybody loses a deal due to price. And the easy thing for a leader or an entrepreneur to do is to say, it was just about the price. Well, let me ask you this. Are you convicted about your pricing? Do you believe in your pricing? Do you stand behind your pricing? See, pricing is not just dollars and cents. Pricing is features, advantages, benefits, value, residuals. It's a whole lot that goes into that. And so when you decide to set the price, set the price. You can't set the price on what you would like to make. You have to be honest. What is your product worth? I know what my product is worth, and I sell my product for that amount. But my product is not a sales process, it's an opportunity to be connected with someone that I can help. I'm simply helping you get from where you are to where you want to be. And if I do that, the transaction of finance will be a part of the process, but it will be a benefit to you because you will get the ROI on your investment in your leadership. At a conference recently, I learned this that those who invest in leadership development, companies that do that, they have found that they get $7 of return for every dollar they spend on leadership development. Did you hear what I just said? $7 return for every dollar invested in leadership. So when clients come to me, and I can attest that that's very happened, where they've invested and they've gotten a $7 plus return on their investment. Well, if I don't believe in that, then I'm going to lose deals to price because I will say my price passively or I will say it apologetically. Have you ever said, "Well, okay, now we can do this, but it's going to be quite the investment"? Well, when you say that, your potential client is already on the defensive because you're letting them know it's going to be very expensive. I'm about honesty. I'm about transparency, and I believe in the results. Why? Because we've gotten results. So when you're speaking of price, or speaking of your product, your program, your team, your company, your brand, you have to speak with confidence, boldness, and certainty without arrogance and say, when we get to the price, we talk to the price. We don't worry about that. But before I ever tell you what it costs, I'm going to tell you what it does and how it helps you. And I'm going to tell you why you need to be a part of this. And I'm going to show you that what you're doing is you're not spending any money. What you're doing is you're investing money in yourself and your team and your brand. And how it's going to pay you back with interest is by this, this, and this. That's what we do. So get very practical. How do you get back up? Listen, a good way for me, just practically, when I don't get the deal, when I don't win the client, or when I've had a setback in my business, I go and have a healthy meal by myself, nobody else with me. Um, Having one of my favorite beverages, and one of my favorite beverages is Diet Dr. Pepper, while another one is a bold cup of black coffee. I like them both, and I'll sit there and have a meal of some sort. But I'm really reflecting over what happened. I'm putting in into practice what I've told you, so that I can look at it. But then when I take my napkin and I wipe my face off and wipe my hands and I pay the tab and tip well because I'm a good tipper. When I get up and leave that table, I'm going to get back in the game. We're going to get back in the game. We're going to win. We're not going to allow this challenge or setback to take us out. But we did take time to reflect and to address and to get better from it. Oh, but when I get up from that table, I'm going to have to leave that setback at the table because I have clients who are depending on me. I have people who are depending on me to show up. My team is depending on me to show up, and we don't get to just not do our job. So you've got to learn that you got to build some resilience along the way because setbacks will come. But I want you to focus on building some practical processes. You know me, my word, systems that will help you overcome setbacks. Oh, we are going so quickly. Our time is running. Let me see if I can throw one more thought in here. Listen, this is probably one of the most effective means for me, and I think will work for you and your business and your life as a leader for maintaining motivation. You must build a community that supports you. You have to have support systems. Now, the thing is that support systems, they encourage you. They don't embellish you, but they encourage you. When I have a significant setback or loss, my support system is there to help me to make it through that. When I have a significant win, I share with my support system and they celebrate with me. Here's the challenge for us. When we think about a support system, you all know, I can share with you my support system is a very few close friends, very, very few, and my immediate family. My I call my family my home team. I've got two daughters who are married. That makes four adults. We've got five grandchildren and my wife. That's the team of 11. That is my support system. I have a ministry. That is my support system. But those who are closest to me, they're the ones that encourage me. And so that, but when we talk, let's just talk inner circle for a moment. Inner circle is not a big place because anyone who occupies your inner circle, you must be able to pay what they pay to be in the circle. So if you can call them anytime, they need to be able to call you anytime. See why you can't support a big circle. You only have a room for a few. And so when you do that, what you're doing is I find some, there's a connection there with like-minded people and like-minded communities. And so I start with my inner circle and my family, my inner circle, and then I get into other communities, leadership teams and groups that are like-minded. They're further out, but these support systems encourage me. That's why, as a coach, you know me, I'm your host coach, Rodney Payne. You know me, I'm your coach. But I have a coach. Why do I have a coach? Because I need support. I need help as well. Matter of fact, I wouldn't trust a coach who doesn't have a coach. That's a challenge for me. If you can coach me, but no one coaches you, that means you think you got it all figured out. And I'm sorry, we're not buying that. So get a coach. So listen, you've got to make sure that you have this community that supports you. Listen, we are out of time for today. Oh my goodness. Thank you for joining us. We were talking about maintaining your motivation as a pickup from last week. You have to understand motivation is a cycle. They come in cycles, and you got to be able to leverage these peaks and valleys. You got to be able to celebrate your victories. You got to build resilience, and then you got to build a community and a support system. These are the steps that are going to help you to stay motivated, because you do your best work when you feel like working. You do your best work when you've just won. So we want to stay on top and keep pushing, and know it won't always be exciting. It all won't always be fun. But if I have a system in place, it's going to help me to overcome. So I want you to build your system. Understand the cycles, build a system to deal with the cycles and to keep consistency. Celebrate all victories, not just the small, all of them. Why? Celebration recognizes achievements and accomplishments. Build resilience. Have a system to get back up again. And then have a community and a support system that you can lean on during the difficult times. Listen, it's been such a pleasure. You have been listening to Speaking with One Voice with your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. We are here for you. Please follow us on social media at Rodney R. Payne. Check out our YouTube channel at Rodney R. Payne. And then, of course, you can always find us, RodneyRPayne.com. Don't forget to go by there, pick up your free gift. I want you to move the needle in your organization. You can do it. Listen, I believe in you as a leader. I believe in you as an entrepreneur. You can do this. You can do this. As a matter of fact, you're listening to this. You're already doing it. Lean into your greatness and go be all that you can be. Don't stop investing in yourself. Don't stop growing. Don't stop believing in yourself. Keep building systems for your success, and then adhere to your system. That's what we got to do. Finally, I'm so glad you joined us, and I got to go. I'm out of time, but it's been my pleasure to add value to you and or your leadership team. You've been listening to Speaking with One Voice. I am your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. Until next time, let's keep growing together.
You've been listening to Speaking with One Voice. Please remember to follow Rodney Payne on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Rodney R. Payne. We'd love to hear from you and get your feedback, so please feel free to leave us comments. And if you would, rate and subscribe to the podcast, we'd appreciate that as well. Don't forget to set up for notifications so you can get the latest updates and social media posts and get new podcasts when they're released. As always, use the hashtag Speaking with One Voice or simply SWOV on any of your social media posts. On behalf of Rodney Payne, thanks again for listening.